Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. I'm so glad to have you here in my workshop and to be a part of this journey. I want to take just a second again to thank all of you who have made comments. I got a text message today actually from someone who sent me a picture of an arrangement that they had made following one of the videos. They said, "You have inspired me and look what I've done." And it was just amazing. So I hope that you'll keep doing that. It means the world to me. Share those either on our social media pages or here in the comments on YouTube. Would love to see more of those. Tonight, the technique that we're going to be discussing is called banding. And banding is the technique where you actually use something decorative to bind flowers together, but in a very precise and decorative way. And if you know me, I'm a little OCD, so this has me written all over it because it's tight, and it's little neat bands of material. So let's just take a look at what that looks like in terms of how you would make it happen. For this arrangement that I'm going to be creating, it's going to be a very kind of clean, simple, very modern arrangement that lends itself nicely to this whole technique of banding. And we're going to be banding 3 different groups of materials together to use in the arrangement. So, beautiful calla lilies. Does this not make you feel like spring? This makes me feel like spring. So I'm just going to kind of group these together in my hand, sort of a little bit a la the hand-tied technique, but not quite, just because I want to get this nice sort of uniform tight shape here with the flowers. In some cases I would spiral these out so that the bloom would extend out from the arrangement, but for what we're doing tonight, I want this to be kind of tight and kind of more compartmentalized. So I want it to be centrally focused in the center. So I'm kind of twisting the flowers back in on themselves. All right. So yeah, it's just going to be a tight little cluster. Gotta keep those stems straight because that drives me crazy when they're kind of overlapping each other, not in a very neat way. All right, let's put that last one right here. All right, so I'm gonna take just a bit of this green anchor tape, and the anchor tape is basically gonna just act to kind of hold everything in place while we're putting the decorative band on, okay? Because it's a difficult process to do all of that at once. So, just gonna apply a little bit of that tape right there to the flowers. Just gonna spin it around so that kind of holds everything in place. There we go. So nice, neat little bundle of flowers. All right, we're gonna take our friend, the aluminum wire from Smithers Oasis. Love this stuff, love the fact that it's colorful, it's fun. It's got so many applications as you're starting to see because I like using it a lot. And so to create the first band, what we're gonna do is just kind of lay this next to that tape, and we're just gonna start to wrap the stems of the flowers. Seems easy enough, right? He said as he struggled with the first wrap. No, just kidding. All right, so what we're gonna do, the goal here is, because this has to be a precise wrap, is we have to keep these concentric rows very close together. And you can see after you get the first 1 or 2 done, it kind of falls in place a little bit easier. Yep. All right, so this is actually the technique called banding, where we've created a band, a very precise binding for the materials together, but using a decorative product to do it. Now, that end, if we were using a different flower, what I would probably do with that end is cut it on a sharp angle and jam it into the flowers. But because these flowers are so fibrous, these calla lilies have stems that are very fibrous, I'm worried this wire, if I put it in there, would actually break the bloom off and kind of sever the stem. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna take some little needle nose pliers. I'm just gonna do a little kind of bend to that end there, so it kind of tucks in on itself a little bit, and just kind of push it in. All right, and then we'll do the same thing when we come down here to the end. I'm gonna put one more in there. Do you like these colors together? If you know anything about me by now, you know I like color. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy this. All right, again, just a little twist of that wire at the very end so that it kind of points in. Then we're just gonna tuck it in, and that creates that nice, neat banding on those flowers. Now, I think this is the vase we're gonna use for the arrangement. I don't want this to be super long. So let's go with that. Let's get a little water in here. One thing that you should know about calla lilies, when you're putting them in arrangements, if they're with other flowers, you're gonna have to kind of take your cue from the entire arrangement. But if you have calla lilies just by themselves, they're not especially crazy about a lot of water. They will actually hold and live longer if they have just a little bit of water in the vase. And that's again because these stems are so fibrous. They tend to rot if they have a lot of water or if you cover a lot of the stem with water. So that's one of the kind of the downsides. So we're just gonna give this a little trim. Again, kind of a nice, smooth, even trim there. Cool. Now, I mentioned to you earlier that this is going to be a very contemporary design, one that's kind of very clean and linear. And I've already prepared a couple of other bundles of flowers with the banding technique. This one, I went so far as to make little sort of medallions out of the wire before I tucked it in. So it had a little more decorative element to it as well. So let's get that one in there. All right, I'm gonna shorten this one just a little bit, just to make the perspective on this arrangement right. Yep, it's gonna work. Ta-da! Finished arrangement. Now, how easy is that? That is totally something that you guys can play with at home. Explore lots of different options for how you can band. I do want to show you a couple of other options now for different types of materials, different things that you can use for banding. So I'll just set that one aside. I think that's really fun. I really like that. All right. This one, I just took this little bundle of roses. This rose is called Free Spirit. It's an amazing variety. And as it opens, it begins to look like the sunset. It kind of gets that warm yellowish gold color in the center, these pinkish red orangey tones on the outer edge. Beautiful. So what I'm gonna do to band this, you notice I already put a couple of pieces of bind wire on it. That was kind of my cheat element to kind of hold everything in place while I get ready to do the banding with the decorative element. And in this case, the decorative element is going to be a leaf. This is an aspidistra leaf, and I'm basically just going to cut that firm stem part off because I want to wrap this around the stems of the flowers, and it wouldn't wrap so easily if this part were on there. So I'm going to do that. This is actually a lot more than I need, so I'm going to trim again. And then basically, you just are going to do the same thing that we did with the wire. You just kind of twist that and band those flowers with the leaf. It's a very simple look. In this case, I'm going to take these colored corsage pins and just kind of tuck that up into the flower. So then the corsage pin is actually going to be another decorative element as a part of this banding. So not only do we have the leaf as a part of the banding, but then this pin is also going to be sort of an accent for that. So we're going to put a few more of those on there. This is actually a treatment that you might do on a bridal bouquet or on a bridesmaid's bouquet in a wedding. Obviously you'd have more to the design of the actual bouquet, but in terms of the wrap that's on the stem, you could easily do this. And you do want to poke around in there a little bit so that you can find one of the stems. You do want the pin to kind of be secured in one of the stems so that you'll know that it's not going to slip out. I had someone ask me recently through a message on social media about odd numbers versus even numbers in flowers. You noticed in this arrangement that we just did, I put 3 bundles of flowers together. In this, there are 7 stems of roses. And when I pulled the pins to do this today, I pulled 5 pins. So there is kind of something to an odd numbered element in design world. And as I was reading about it, I discovered that many people say that when you use even numbers, that it becomes sort of static and you don't really pay attention to it. But odd numbers are what call your attention to something. So there be it. Banding again, this time using a leaf and some decorative pins, just as a way to kind of hold together some simple flowers. I would probably go back, in this case, prior to doing the banding, just to finish off the bottom a little bit, do some more leaves around there just to make it finished. All right, I want to show you another one that I think is super cool. I'll be right back. So this banding, as you can see, is actually on these stems. I use this hot pink wire on these purple stems. These purple stems are actually the stem of this flowering kale. So instead of throwing them away, I decided to make them a decorative part of the arrangement. So I love the fact that they're purple, first of all, and I just took my knife, kind of cleaned them up a little bit, which is kind of what makes those white places in it a little more apparent. Did a little bit of that, and then banded the stem with the pink wire and used that as a feature in the arrangement. Super cool. It's a way to use something I was going to throw away that became something beautiful. All right, and one last banding just for, we do a lot of event work here, so I can't really think in terms of really cool specialty techniques like this without thinking about event work. So I've had these tulips laying out on my table and they're not quite wilted enough, but my goal was actually to have them wilted. And you're probably thinking that's counterintuitive to what we normally do in a flower shop, because you keep the flowers in the water so that they get hydrated. But in this case, I wanted them to be more flexible. And tulips are one of those flowers that you can leave them out of water. They will wilt and they become more pliable and flexible. You can bend and twist them, then you can rehydrate them and they'll perk right back up again. So it's a super cool thing about this particular flower and with the application that I want to do. So I kind of wanted this cascading sort of spiral look with these tulips. And again, I'm going to go for this hot pink wire because I can. And this is a case where I'm going to actually stick the wire into the flower, and that's going to be the secure spot before I start doing the band. And again, just twisting around and making sure that you're being somewhat precise with keeping the rows tight together so that this decorative element really does play up. And your band can be as wide or as narrow as you like. That really is up to you in terms of your interpretation of it. I think just to meet the sort of the standard requirements of what a band is, it has to be precise, it has to be decorative. So you can have it as wide or as narrow as you like. All right. I'm gonna cut that. I'm gonna do the same thing again. Just kind of bend it back, shove it into the flowers, and push that in. Now, the fun part of this will come from the vase that I want to showcase this in. Clean the table. It's time. It's always time at some point, isn't it, Jason, for cleaning the table? And Bourbon Nut's coming up soon, so we need clean for that. All right. So again, thinking about event work, I wanted to make this sort of dramatic. I wanted this to really play up something special. So I have this really cool sort of slope cut martini glass that I just think is way awesome. And what I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of an angle on each of these flowers, because I want that to be pretty too. I don't want it just to be kind of a stub cut, blunt cut end. I want this to be attractive. There we go. So then what we're gonna do is just kind of spiral them. But we're gonna just kind of bend those into the vase. And this is one of those things that you don't even have to put water in here now. If you're doing this for an event, these would be fine for the event to stay just like this without water. And then after the event, if you wanted to take them out and rehydrate them, you certainly could. But were these not a little bit wilted, they would be breaking right now. So the fact that they're a little wilted is what's allowing me to kind of manipulate these in this way, which is really kind of cool. So there they are, kind of curved up and bent down into that really beautiful shape, which is very interesting and attractive and kind of fun for an event work. So I hope that you like that too. Please try banding at home. It's so much fun. There are hundreds of different ways that you can do that. You can use rope or twine for more rustic approaches to it, but play with it, have a good time, and then when you've finished, have some bourbon. And that's what we're gonna do tonight. So the bourbon of choice for today is Elijah Craig. And Elijah Craig is, gosh, one of the bourbons that I probably have known about the longest. I remember being a party with Jim and Ron and Harry and our wives, and I think Jim or Harry had been on a recent trip to Kentucky and had tried Elijah Craig for the first time. And so they brought it back and said, you guys have got to try Elijah Craig. And so we did, and we all loved it. Elijah Craig is made in Kentucky. This is the Elijah Craig small batch. And the small batch is sort of the signature product in their product line. They have some other variations on this bourbon that they have made. They do an 18-year as well. That's supposed to be really good. And as a tribute to Elijah Craig, there was actually a man named Elijah Craig who became known as the father of bourbon. And the reason he was called the father of bourbon is because he was the first person ever to char the inside of an oak barrel and then use that barrel for aging and storing whiskey. So hence the reason he got the title Father of Bourbon. This is actually a 94 proof, so it is a little bit stouter than some. Jason, you hate to drink alone. So let's take a look. As you can see from the bottle, it has a really beautiful, sort of almost coppery color. It's almost like an orangey deep copper. It is really lovely. It's also beautiful in the glass, of course. Let's do a smell. Oh, so there's a mint. There's like a little hint of mint and like spices, definitely spices. Some vanilla. Oh, that's nice. So it's almost like a little bit of that char, almost like from the wood that you can taste. A little bit of sweetness, definitely, almost like honey. Yeah, and for me, this one sits all the way at the back of my palate, which is super nice. Especially given that I have a cold right now. This will just make me feel much better, I'm sure. So yeah, one more. Yeah, definitely that warm kind of honey spice, a little bit of smokiness, but the smokiness is not overpowering. It's really super nice. You know what I'd love to know? I'd love to know what your bourbon ritual is. Do you drink bourbon neat like this? Or do you drink it on ice? Or do you use a mixer? What is your favorite way to drink bourbon? So please share that with me in the comments. Don't forget, as always, to like the video. Please subscribe to our videos. I would be so flattered if you would do that. And then, you know, you'll get notified when we put up new ones. And of course, you don't want to miss this because we're having too much fun. So again, my name is Mark. This has been Blossoms and Bourbon. Until next time, cheers to you and to flowers every day.